I'll just say that the obvious, it's what I'm really good at. Thank God this is over with. I am still perplexed why it took so long. It occurs to me, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that I was, last evening when I heard what was going on over at across the street, where a lot of the the Senate Republicans were yucking it up that they had blocked still again the budget deal, that it underscores the damage that happens to this institution when people do not comport themselves in a manner consistent with the traditions of this Senate. This place has always been characterized by the ability to rise above politics, not partisanship necessarily, but politics, to put the institution ahead of everything else. But when people take glee and delight in failing to allow the job of this Senate to be done, to take glee and delight over people who are suffering because the state had not passed the budget, that is very troubling. And I think it's not troubling just today. It's going to be a harbinger for the future if some very strong positions are not taken and people decide that we are going to do our business in the common good, in the interest of the common good, and not the interest of some narrow ideologies. Question has been asked, what happened today that couldn't have happened before? I do not have an answer to that. Many of the issues that have been sticking points, candidly, were never brought up until late in the game. Dick Ackerman is the duly anointed leader selected by his caucus. I didn't select him. They did. And then it became sort of everybody in the caucus got to get a can of spray paint and put graffiti on the wall. It was, I've never seen that happen before, where you have a sort of a rolling set of negotiations and different people had different ideas at different times. In the final analysis, we were 51 or 52 days late. One Republican went up. That was the leader. Others didn't. A couple of them voted for different trailer bills, which may or may not have any consequence in any event. But it's very interesting that everybody who held out and who didn't vote for the budget still received the benefits. Their constituents received the benefits of that budget. They don't have to endure the pain, but they all get the benefits. And there's just something fundamentally wrong with that approach to governance. At least Senator McClintock clearly articulates, a vision for the 18th century when he gets up and talks. But it's a little less clear what other people want, what they would be satisfied with. So we're going to have to decide among ourselves, the four leaders and the governor, what damage has been caused by this inordinate delay and what we're going to do about it as it affects the rest of the year and coming into the following year. We do know this, that next year promises to be less hopeful financially than this year, simply because of what's going on with the national economy. And we're going to have to make some decisions about that. Finally, the best thing that happened today, other than innocent people who were hurt no longer will be getting hurt, and I'm mindful of a program last night on a news channel that will remain nameless because I couldn't remember, but there was a story done on the developmentally disabled, a home, I believe, here in Sacramento or within the vicinity. And there were discussions about not being able to feed the clients next week because there were no longer loans available for the owner of the facility to access. And very few people know those kinds of things. I commend the media for bringing them out. But somebody said, well, what difference does it make? Only 18% of the public even knows what you do. That's all the more reason for us to do what we're supposed to do, because they don't know. That is precisely the reason. So we had a long holdout, and we're now finished with it. And I don't think the institution's any better for it. This did not strengthen the institution, and it certainly wasn't a moment of distinction for any of us. And I don't think it's just Republicans, that we all get tainted by that.
What do you have to say to Senator Ackerman for being the one to provide the second vote for the meeting?
He did his job. Dick Ackerman did his job. You know, it's not like the captain, unlike the captain of the ship. You got to go down with it. I believe that they have something called the Rule of Eight, which would be analogous to my caucus being governed by 13 or 14 people, and they finally had 8 people that allowed Dick to cast his vote. But I don't think Dick is a martyr. I don't think he deserves any particular congratulations for doing his job. I'm glad he did it. But that's why we're here, And, none of us are here to be popular with everyone at all times. And you saw interest groups today running around saying you can't do that. Well, they're doing what they're supposed to do, arguing for one issue, and they don't care about anything else. Our job is broader than that.
Do you believe he walked the political plank, casting that vote?
Well, I think Dick Ackerman is as good a person that they're ever going to get in that job out of that caucus. And I don't have a vote in that caucus, but Dick Ackerman is a good man to work with. Unfortunately, I believe that the caucus did him a disservice, because there were a lot of things going on that had absolutely nothing to do with the budget itself. I believe that leadership fights were going on there, ideological fights. If you read some of the blogs that they frequent, they were all getting themselves all whipped up, and this is a wonderful thing that we're doing. And Dick had to pay the price for that. And I hope it doesn't, I'll work with whomever I have to.
What about the charges in there that this budget, it's very tenuously balanced and on-style accounting, and that puts us in a really bad position for next year? And if it was hard enough to negotiate this, how difficult is it going to be when you're $5 billion in the hole?
Well, it's, I see the people who are in the stock market as sort of well-educated bookies. They're all trying to calculate the odds of who's going to win and who's going to lose. So I've never been overly impressed by those who tell me what next year is going to look like, month to month to month to month. What I do know is that we had, within our own grasp, the ability to prime California's economy with the billions of dollars of Rebuild California funds, the infrastructure money that was available. We delayed that, and now we'll put that money to work. So for those who are worried about what's happening next year, I talk about what's happening now. And what can we do? What control do we have over that small portion of life that we've been given some responsibility? And I would much prefer to talk about putting people to work, getting that money into the economic bloodstream of California, and not have people that say Chicken Little was right, the sky is falling. It's pretty damn easy to stand up on that floor and demagogue it, and to talk about what things are going to happen and what we should be doing. But they also they benefit. They are not responsible for governing.
Senator, can you tell us who believe that the well has been poisoned by this debate before any subsequent negotiations on health?
Well, I won't be drinking out of that well for the rest of the week, I'll tell you that much. This is probably a very bad day to ask me how I would look at the future. The fact is we have work to do, and we're going to do it, and we're going to have to overcome this. But ever since I've been pro tem, I have tried to be collegiate. I have tried to govern this House with, I hate the choice of the term, but inclusionary capability. And I may have made a mistake with that, because some people confuse comedy and cooperation with weakness and lack of resolve. And that's a mistake. If it's been made once, will never be made again.
Do you regret not locking them in and leaving them locked in?
No, I don't. I don't think, they, maybe in the old days when they couldn't blog and, become heroes or martyrs. What is that? They call themselves martyrs of the taxpayers of California. Well, I pay taxes, and I didn't see any martyrdom there for me. No, I think what we have to do is our job. We have to figure out. I will tell you this. Next year, I'm going to ask Republicans every day when we're doing the budget, is there anything you want to bring up today? Because there's a whole lot of stuff that came up at the end that was never brought up before. And to say we're in the minority and nobody pays any attention to us is just bullshit.
Speaking of next year, Senator, is there going to be some real movement to try and get rid of the two-thirds requirement or some other
I don't think that's the only problem in this budget. I mean, you could play it cheap and say we should have a majority vote. The fact is, we have very little control over any spending in this budget, 8 or 9%. The rest of it is out of our control. And we are, no one will walk around here and talk about readjusting the way we collect and disperse revenues. And hopefully we're going to do that. Every leader has said, and I hope Dick Ackerman is going to be part of that we're going to sit down and talk about what we're going to have to do in the future to correct a course that has been really drawn since the passage of Proposition 13 in 1978. We've been gradually going off course ever since then. Where people have the most confidence in local government, they have far too little responsibility and authority in local government. But we're going to have to work together to do that. I think the 2/3 vote is one of the things. The majority vote on the budget is an issue, but that's not a magic potion at all.
Can you walk us through it all the last night, this morning? When were things actually cooked?
Started drinking yesterday at a much earlier hour than I normally do, and I went away from wine into the heavy spirits. I actually, when Dick Ackerman said publicly yesterday we had a deal, I thought we had a deal. And then it got unraveled. I really don't know why. I mean, I'm as abused as you are. But later in the evening, Dick and I just talked, and I said that the only vote you have, Dick, is your own. And as a leader, if you commit to me that you're going to put your vote up tomorrow, I will plan on that. We'll go accordingly, and he did that, and that's what did it. It wasn't as though I hadn't thought of that question earlier, but clearly the time had arrived, and he was prepared to go up at that time. But I came in this morning, and I was a little skeptical about what would happen.
Senator, any of the sorry, I can look that way when you answer, but are any of the modifications that were made ones that would not have been made by your caucus a month ago? I mean, because, some of the CEQA stuff? Or
No, there wasn't. If you go and pull apart what amendments were made to the original trailer bills, you could not live 5 seconds on the difference. As regard to the one that was sort of it wasn't the object du jour, whatever the French word for week or 10 days or fortnight would be, this AB 32 business. The fact of the matter is, I said it then, I'll say it again, there were those in this building that wanted to completely suspend CEQA, and they sought an opportunity and found an opportunity to do that, and the Republicans accommodated them. We slammed that door shut. Early on in the discussion, we talked about how do we make sure that that money gets spent. Then they decided that Jerry Brown was going to be this big villain for them. None of us believe that any of the projects that are underway right now were going to be jeopardized by a greenhouse gas lawsuit. But in the final analysis, the bill that was passed probably, ironically, strengthened the position of protecting the environment, because now it has drawn into view greenhouse gases as an environmental factor. But that could have been done 30 days ago, could have been done 40 days ago, had it been brought up at the time. I will say this, it's more than a coincidence that when Jerry Brown had this lawsuit become visible in San Bernardino, that all of a sudden this became an issue. It was not an issue all spring long, and I will tell you that we worked very closely together, Republicans and Democrats, putting that stuff together. If it were an issue, I'd have known about it before it became one.
Don, by that token, did the Attorney General settlement of that suit today contribute in any way to what happened to it?
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Coincidental?
Yes, it was. He told us when we met 2 weeks ago Saturday, he said he was going to settle that lawsuit. They were just waiting for it to have a public vote, but they had agreement in principle with San Bernardino, so they knew that was going to happen.
Is this package essentially what you had on the 1st or the 20th?
Yeah, there's nothing different here. There really isn't. I mean, it's if you stop and ask yourself, what did you do in the war, Daddy? What did you do in the Senate this past month? We did do nothing today on whatever August day it is that we couldn't have done on August 1st. You got to have rules, and you have to abide by the rules. Too few people in the Republican caucus this year accepted the rules of the game, accepted the rules of procedure. And for those who would live and die on law and order, I find it highly ironic that they would not allow themselves to be governed. They changed the rules. They ignored the rules in mid-sentence. We used the metaphors, removing the goalpost, or, drawing different lines all the time. The fact of the matter is I don't think they had any really clear idea what they wanted to do, except not pass the budget. And I think some of them wanted to criticize the governor, and some of them wanted to flex their muscles and all this other good stuff. But the fact of the matter is that we're now into the next budget year, and off we go. Thank you.
You just mentioned the governor quickly. 3 weeks ago, when this all broke down, you said it was the governor's job largely to bring Republicans forward. Did he do any of that?
No, he could. He was unable to do that. I would guess that he probably was as surprised as the rest of us. But once again, I heard people personally attacking the governor. And, I'm talking about personally, not attacking the governor's position, but attacking him. And, I come from a place, and, I taught a class where you had respect for the governor. I don't care who he was. If you don't like his policies, that's fine. You don't attack him. So there were, again, this goes back to what rules do we live by and what rules do we play by. And I think there were some very shameful things said and done about the office of the governor. That doesn't do anybody well. Anybody in this state, I know some of these editorial writers have talked about the real problem is redistricting. Well, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, if that was a way, if we could just solve it that way, wouldn't that be wonderful? The fact of the matter is that there are people here who represent about 20% of California. This is not a right-wing state. It is not. You have to rule from the center here. So when people who get elected and have a right-wing philosophy can control the budget, they're going to do it. But I cannot believe for a moment that they represent, who in their right mind would let children or disabled people suffer? I mean, who would do that if they didn't have to? And for what? What greater good was served here today? Nothing. I hope all of you have a couple days off.
The appropriation a month and a half ago to allow those people to get the funding that they would have needed and then brought the budget into balance?
Well, you could do that. My answer back was, why don't you just provide the vote? What's more important? That we should break the tradition and the rules of this state. Because if you do it for that, why not? Shouldn't it be for this? Shouldn't it be for that? We are not Congress. We don't have the luxury here of being able to have an ongoing resolution. You never have to be accountable. The fact of the matter is, they could never explain why they would not put the vote up to prevent that from happening, for the state to pay the bills. So the onus was on them. They could never answer the question. Why?
Senator, there was some pictures yesterday in the paper in the Sacramento Bee showing some assembly people having dinner, smoking cigars.
One assemblyman, most of them were senators.
Correct. They said that it was basically your fault that they had to go and have dinner and this nice dinner while everybody else was waiting for the budget to pass. Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, but you're not going to want to hear it right now.
Well, yes, we do.
That was probably the biggest embarrassment that I've ever faced as an elected official, looking at colleagues that were doing that at a time when we were sitting over here trying to figure out how to get their votes. That was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for them. It was embarrassing for the institution. And as a native Californian and as somebody who loves the state and his country, I resent people that do things like that.
But you went to CHOPS yesterday too, didn't you?
Oh, come on now. Was that a serious question?
Well, I mean, is it just that they were at CHOPS, or what was the problem?
They were whooping it up. They were taking credit for stopping the last deal. That's what they were doing. It wasn't that they were eating the chops. They got bad taste, so what? No, it was they were taking delight, and they were gleeful over the fact that they had once again thwarted the 27th vote. That's what they were doing there. While we were over here trying to figure out how to get it done. So I hope it was worth it. And I wish that was on the front page as opposed to the back page. But I'll tell you, it could have been on the bottom of the bird cage, and I'm going to remember it.
Thank you.
Thank you.